Testing. Welcome, everybody. It's 7:03 p.m. I will call this meeting to order. If you would please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Rory, if you would call roll as soon as you're ready, please.
Yes. Councilmember Glover.
Here.
Billings. Here. Gettle.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
And Robinson. Here.
Thank you. Next up, we've got the Unified Fire Authority report. We'll hear from Chief Larson.
Well, good evening. How was the walk? Hot? Warm. Pretty nice?
A little quenched, but.
Well, we stayed in and had cake, so sorry. Let's see, can I just... Let's see if we can get the quarterly report, second quarter pulled up here. Yeah. Okay. While he's getting that up, I can go ahead and jump into just a few talking points for July. We have held 2 open houses. I mentioned that we were getting ready to test again and have a recruit class in the fall for more firefighters. We held 2 open houses for nearly 200 attendees that were interested in testing. And we talked to them about what UFA is, how our testing works, the physical fitness requirements, which I know Councilmember Brown can appreciate now that he's been through Fire School 101. But we're going to be holding new hire testing. We've already had one on the 10th, the 13th, the 15th, and then 17th and 20th we'll hold the last of the testing. And from there, they go into an interview process, background check, and then they're placed on a list on how they scored on all these processes, and then we start hiring. So it's quite a process. I remember going through that eons ago, and it's very stressful, but very exciting once you find out where you end up on the list. So we wish them all the best of luck.
Chief, can I add in one thing?
Yeah.
Doing this second recruit camp was a request specifically from UFA administration, both on the really across public safety. We're understaffed. Now, fire doesn't have nearly the same recruitment issues that police does. But if you remember as well, I've talked about that Kearns was bringing on another ambulance, and so they were having to fill a number of positions and trying to fix some of the staffing challenges they've been having. So they're also planning to overhire right now. So usually UFA only does one recruit camp a year, and then they came to the board and asked that we fund another one. And for those reasons, we did. So excited that we've had so many people at least show interest, and we'll see how far they make it.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, for that clarification. And the next class, I believe, is held in January, February. There's a lot of moving pieces to an organization as large as ours. The promotions, retirements. So it's difficult to keep all the positions filled, so that's why we asked to try and keep our numbers up, and the overtime is down as much as we can. We've also hired 6 new lateral firefighters. Those are individuals who are already working for a fire department, have already had a lot of training, and they come over to UFA, they go through a brief orientation and training, and we get them out in the field as quick as we can. I have mentioned the new engine. I think many of you have had a chance to see your new engine over here at Station 125. We've also have 2 new ambulances. In fact, they were on display, I think, this morning after the board meeting. So we got a chance to show them off. I have a little note here from Captain Kelly Millard about those, and I'll share that here at the end. Of course, the 24th of July is coming up, and fireworks. With the extreme heat that we've had and some of the hot winds, it raises a little bit more of a concern. So we're asking our communities, our citizens, to please be careful and exercise extreme caution when they use fireworks in the upcoming 24th celebration. And to please obey the law, and in restricted areas, please don't use them. We'll have some individuals out on patrol again from our Fire Prevention Division, from our Investigations Division, and our Operations Emergency Response will have some extra rigs out too to combat any fires that occur. I believe I saw there were 2 dumpster fires in Midvale over the 4th and 5th of July. Other than that, for fires, it was fairly calm here. They did have their medical calls and whatnot during the evening, but generally it was a pretty good 4th for us here. So let's go to the quarterly report quickly. Our call volume up in the upper left, the total incidents for the quarter, this is April through June, were 926. It's interesting that out of 27 fire stations in the UFA fire service area, almost 10% of the calls for the quarter were from Station 125 and 126. That's pretty significant. This morning in the board meeting, our operations chief shared the top 5 stations for call volume. 125 was number 3, and 126 was number 5. That's pretty significant. I'm pretty sure it has to do with the density of population here, but your crews are very busy, and they're doing a great job. And the majority of those calls were from 3 to 6 p.m., which I thought was interesting. And then going across there towards the right, you've got the monthly incident counts and the quarter to yearly total incident counts, so you can compare those numbers there by month and by year. Top fire calls, top EMS calls, ALS, that could be a diabetic coma, it could be not breathing, it could be head trauma, any other type of physical trauma. It could be anything that requires paramedic or advanced life support call. And falls, always number 2 or 3. Overdoses was 29. Then our top other calls are over there on the far right. Then on the bottom, the top engine and truck responses. Now these are the total unit responses, which you'll see it's if you add the 2 up, we're at what, 1,600 or so, and 926 total incidents. The bottom numbers there for the engine and truck responses and the ambulance responses, that's a total number of units that went on those 926 incidents. So on one call, you could have a ladder truck, an engine, and an ambulance, and maybe a BC rig. So you could have 4 or 5 units on one call. So that's why those numbers are so different. But you'll see Station 125, 126, those are the number of times, number of units, I'm sorry, that responded within Midvale city limits. And the same with the ambulance responses. A total emergent total time in the 50th percentile. This was after the call comes in and it's processed, from the time they get the call at the station till the time they arrive at the scene is 4 minutes and 31 seconds. And the other 40 times out of 100, it was within 6 minutes and 55 seconds. That could be because they went without lights and sirens, because the call didn't dictate that they go with lights and sirens. It could be traffic, and those type of things. So, and let's see, let's skip to the last one. And again, this is the heat map showing where the majority of the calls are occurring within your city. Any questions?
Chief, I have a question about the overdose, the numbers on the previous slide. Do you guys keep track of like the times that you have to use Narcan on an overdose victim?
Very interesting. We just had a meeting with the mayor and Matt about that yesterday. Mm-hmm. And that's something we're going to start doing a deep dive into to see what kind of information we can get there.
Okay, cool.
So,
If I can just add in again, as a reminder, with our youth violence coordinator, youth violence prevention coordinator, Vanessa, who started in November, this is exactly what she's trying to dive into of, so like overdoses is a piece of this. Where are we seeing those? What do those trends look like? And so UFA has been super helpful. They do a really great job of keeping kind of back-end data. And so they've been a great partner, and we've started those conversations. So that was one of them that we had yesterday.
okay, great. Our safety message for July is just about not leaving children in cars in this heat. It's still going to be in the mid to upper 90s this week and through the weekend. And so we've got some great safety tips for parents and others about not leaving children in the car during this hot weather. It's posted on our website. I would encourage you all to take a look at it. Just one point of interest for that, and I'm trying to be brief. Leaving a window open is not enough. Temperatures inside the car can rise almost 20 degrees Fahrenheit within the first 10 minutes, even with the windows cracked open. So it doesn't take long for that temperature to get way too hot for anyone to be inside. So there's some good tips. And lastly, if you'll indulge me, I hope it's okay. Captain Kelly Millard and his crew are on today, and I'm sure they're out on a call or they would normally be here. But I asked him if he wanted to share anything to the council tonight. And, you know, we can show the numbers up here, but it kind of helps put it on a little bit of a personal level when you hear from the individuals that are actually responding and going out on the calls. So if it's okay, I'll just take a minute and share what he sent to me. And this is just in the last couple of weeks. They've had several automatic aid fires lately. That's where an outside jurisdiction calls for help, like West Jordan or maybe Sandy, and we respond and help them out on a fire. So they've had several automatic aid fires lately, including house fires, a warehouse fire, and field fires. He said, we enjoy working with our neighboring agencies. The new probationary firefighters that had just finished the last training group, they're finishing off their first rotation and will be moving to other stations in the next week or so. So they're going to be leaving Midvale and we'll get a new group in. Midvale's provided them with a lot of hands-on and real-life experiences, whether it be fire calls or medical calls. They get a lot of good experience here and go out into the rest of the areas very well prepared. And I'm finding a lot of them, when they start here, they always eventually end up coming back, like Captain Millard and some of the others. They've got new lateral firefighters that have also started out in the field, and they could be rotating through Midvale quickly here. Within the past couple of months, UFA has put one new engine and 2 new ambulances in service. He said, we're very excited and appreciative to have this new equipment and the opportunity to show it off this morning. As always, he said, we enjoy working with our UPD partners. I'm going to tell him what a bad time Chief Thomas was giving me just before this meeting. Maybe he'll be able to give the bad time back to Chief Thomas. Anyway, he said they're really a great help to us on chaotic scenes, and they really appreciate their assistance. So I thought that would be nice to share that and point that out. Anyway, that's it. Long enough. Any questions for me? And I think, is that the longest I think I've ever been up here?
We did add in a few things, so.
Okay, all right. Well,
Appreciate
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move into public comments. Any person wishing to comment on any item not otherwise scheduled for a public hearing on the agenda tonight can step forward and state their name for the record. If you are here for a public hearing, so we have one public hearing tonight for a project that's at 160 East, 7200 South. Here for that, you'll have an opportunity to speak on that later, but if you're for any other item, now's your time. You can step forward to the microphone. Again, we just need your name, and we'll set a 3-minute timer.
Great, thank you. Hi, Council. Hi, Mayor. My name is Michelle Ernest Cameron, and this is my dad, Holly Ernest. We are here to introduce ourselves to you. Our family just built 3 warehouse office buildings right there on the corner of Catalpa and Millennium, right across just south of Hotel 6. My parents have owned that property, that piece of property, for about 25 years. And my dad has been working to save money and really figure out what he wanted to do to develop that piece of property. We just wanted to come and introduce ourselves and put a face with those buildings. We are a small family business. We're not a corporate giant. We plan to have those buildings for a really long time. My brother does the maintenance at the building. I pay the bills. The grandchildren of my parents pull the weeds, mow the lawns, and do all of the miscellaneous things. My dad is still actively involved and oversees all of the projects there at the property. As we move into the leasing of the spaces, we are looking for tenants who are also good stewards of the space and will add their talents to the Midvale City community. We know that this is an area that has had some challenges with illegal activity, and I found it interesting as Chief Larson was up that our spot was right in the red zone. We really hope that by constructing these beautiful buildings that this will help discourage those activities, and our wish is that the development of this corner will really help the city's efforts in revitalizing this area. We want you to know that we are excited to be in Midvale City and be a partner working together with you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. If there are any questions for us, we'd love to take those. Otherwise, thanks for your time. Any questions?
I think we're glad to have you there. Hope that business goes well. And if you haven't already, maybe you could introduce yourself to our chief, and then he can make sure, because we do have challenges there. You're right next to a fun motel, and we can make sure you're connected to the right folks there if
Great.
something does happen.
Great. Thanks,
Okay,
Mayor.
Thank you.
You know, just one comment also, an attaboy, I guess, for your support staff from the building department to the fire department. I mean, everybody that we come in contact with Midvale City has just been 100% supportive on helping us bring this project to fruition. And I'm not sure how many oftentimes they get attaboys, but we're just so delighted to work with them because, like I say, it's just been so minimal amount of friction on them. And you just got a great staff, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you saying that. All right, do we have any other public comments? Okay. Moving into reports, I've got a few things. One is I've talked about mitigation funds up here several times. Just wanted the council to know that about $3.5 million for state mitigation. Again, that's because we host the family homeless shelter, that every shelter community gets some mitigation funds. The Homeless Services Board approved all those funds for us, and then the state also went back and then they had to check to make sure that our programs actually fit state code. Why they had the board vote on it, and then they told us if it fit or not. I don't understand. But we've gotten all the approvals on that, and credit to Aaron, who they said was our application, one of the hardest board members said our application was the best application. So great credit for all the work from UPD and Aaron for the work that went into that. And so just a reminder on that, so that pays for our Shelter Resource Officer program, a weekly cleanup on 7200 South. We are piloting a new 7200 South business reimbursement program, so you're aware as well. This is specifically, we have to be able to tie it back to kind of transient related activity, but if there's security upgrades, things, fixing fencing that was broken or need new security cameras, something like that. Again, we're just piloting this year, but it's $20,000 per business if you're directly on that corridor. And then we also gave direct funds to the road home so they could do site improvements as well as more deposit assistance. That way we can get kind of more people in and out of there a little faster, and then also paying for more clinician hours at the shelter. So the state and the board have approved that, which is great news for us. It's by far the most amount of money we've ever received from that, so very, very thankful. The other thing, appreciate everybody's patience. We just walked Main Street. It was great. It was hot. But we got to go see all the new buildings and restaurants coming in, which was really exciting. I don't think most of us had ever been in those buildings, so that was fun to see. We're excited to see all the progress, and just really excited for these restaurants, some of them which will hopefully be here this fall and others next year. As always, UPD update. So again, July 1st, fully separated. In fact, we are fully moved out of the sheriff's office building. No more UPD operations there. Maybe I shouldn't say that so definitively. Maybe there's some kind of special ops thing there. Chief is saying no. Great. So fully moved out of the sheriff's building. We've got everybody moved into the different precincts, several folks at Mill Creek City Hall. And since we've got Lieutenant Morse here, I think we're recognizing you on Thursday at the UPD board meeting. But Lieutenant Morse, as we appointed Chief Mazarin into the reorganizing position, Chief Dial, who oversees special operations, he stepped into Maz's position, and Lieutenant Morse had to step into Dial's position during that time. So appreciate you being here and appreciate your work on that. So I think we're all excited and ready for that piece to be over, and we're very much on the tail end, which is great. Lastly, as I think we all know up here, just wanted to recognize and mention that Colleen Costello passed away. Colleen had served on our city council for many years, from 1997 to 2013, and on the planning commission from 2014 to 2022. My fun story, I think she would be fine with me telling this story. I don't know if Matt's going to be fine with it, but if you remember, maybe 2 years ago now, at one point, we were in the news for having what some deemed as a pornographic mural. I did not know Colleen before this, and she called me out of the blue, and
Let's be clear though.
it's not. It is not. Thank you. Yes, just some claimed that. And Colleen called me, and I had maybe met her a little bit before. And she said, I was so skeptical of you when you became mayor. I didn't know if I liked you or not. I did a news interview where I defended public art. And she was like, if people think this is pornographic, they've clearly never been to Europe. They've never traveled anywhere. And you won my respect. And it was just really nice of her to do. She was such a sweet lady who just really approached everything with just humor and grace. And she'll be missed. So she's got a rosary for her this Sunday. At 6 p.m. at Goff Mortuary on State, and then her funeral mass is on Monday, July 22nd at 11 a.m. at St. Therese Church, just right down the road here. So with that, moving to council reports. Councilmember Billings.
Nothing today, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Glover.
Just good to be back with everybody. Had a
back.
good trip, and thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Councilmember Robinson.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I have a few things. First, just because she'd probably like me to say this, I'd like to wish happy birthday to Heidi from up here as well, since we sung to her, and she was really embarrassed there, so I figure as long as it's on public record, she'll be really happy about that.
You sung. I'm sorry.
Well, sung is a very liberal term.
I wasn't.
Noises.
We made
We made noises
I
in a
have-
rhythm.
I have a meeting that I am running late to get here, and you do something like that.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed.
In fact, we're only going to do this one time because the mayor's not here.
Figures.
A couple other things. The Catalpa properties, I was going to mention them today. I think they look really nice. When they came in, I'm like, man, these seem kind of uninspired, and it's a weird location. Like, what's this going to look like? I think it looks very good. I really like the landscaping, and I think you guys did a great job. Now that the fences are removed, it's just full again with all that parking for the MOTA. It's just so frustrating because MOTA, I parked there the other morning just to see, and there was more parking spots that would have taken all the cars that were parking. So it's not like a traditional issue where there's not enough parking. There is enough parking. I know we've tried to address it, but we should lean into those owners because, as they're trying to find tenants, it's going to stink, right? When it's like there's just these cars that are parked there all the time. The other thing I thought of, and this could be a longer term thing, is there's quite a bit of space between the sidewalk and Motel 6's fence line. And there's this weird grass that probably no one wants to use or own. Like, I don't know if we could make that like a 45-degree parking there or something along those lines, and there'd be like 30 or 40 cars that would fit. That could help both them and whatever. I don't know if that's something we can do. I just think we need to think about it because they look nice, but the parking just kills the look because it's just, like, it was crazy. I don't know where those 20 cars went when the construction was on, but the day the fence was gone, boom, filled up. So if there's something we can do, we should lean on MOTA, as best we can. Also, on that same note, it looks like Motel 6 sold to Econ Lodge or whatever, and, not that we need to be involved with all owners. We probably, and they probably know the situation there, but we probably should, the chief and everyone should make sure they have the new owners on speed dial as well, just to make sure, everything is, taken care of. Does that make sense? I don't know if that's how it works, but.
For what it's worth, I think the day that transaction happened, Chief Thomas was working with us to try to make some connections there, make sure that all processes were being followed and all that, and so we've been kind of keeping an eye on it. But the chief does a phenomenal job of knowing before anyone else when those things happen, and that's why he should never, ever leave us,
Right.
among other reasons. So we were
Okay,
aware
that's
on
good.
that. And then the other thing, I think it's a good idea, that piece of property you're talking about is a weird UDOT-owned property, and that creates some complications, but we can definitely look to see if there's something.
That's more like a long, like, I don't think we can get that tomorrow, but, let's find as many ways to think about that, because if MoDOT's not gonna take care of it, it just does not help that area, I'd like to thank the staff for arranging that walk around Main Street. I am very negative towards anything, where corporate, the corporations and whatever get, whether, really good financing or whatever. I'm very hard on that, right? And I think, for good reason. It's, we're charged with protecting the taxpayers', money, right? However, I am very impressed, and everything that I would want from helping these businesses are what's happening there. As I said, they could have knocked all these buildings over, put in, 3-story apartments in every one of those places, made them as small as possible, rented them out, and white building, whatever the cheapest thing. And I'm just really happy. I think it's something that we're all going to be proud of. But that's a testament to the staff, to, I think, council being pretty aligned with what we want on Main Street. Because when me and Councilmember Gettle started, none of that was happening. And when I was like, yeah, everyone wants Main Street to look different. That's never happening. And that was only 6.5 years ago. And now it feels like within a year from now, we're gonna have a bunch of cool stuff. So appreciate that, appreciate the owners, appreciate the staff. And lastly, I know I'm a little long-winded today. Our Hall of Honors, we selected Hal Hale. He was the first athlete, and Councilmember Glover gave a nod. I've told a handful of people, a lot of Midvale is going to be very proud of this one. Who's our first athlete, professional athlete to ever come out of Midvale. I think he was in the first graduating class of Hillcrest High. Was one of their first student body presidents. He's living in his childhood home. He was very gracious, when we notified him. So, if you're a longtime Midvale resident, you know who that is. And I'm pretty happy with this. I'm happy generally, but this is a kind of maybe one that slipped through the cracks for a while and we caught, and so this will be really good. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Biddle?
Thanks, Mayor. Two things. We had a really good discussion with a resident on behalf of some other residents behind Topgolf who have some very specific amendments to the Riverwalk overlay that they're interested in the city council adopting. So I just wanted to mention that and let you guys know that that will likely be before the Planning and Zoning Commission at some point, and then if they recommend approval, it'll come to us as well. But it's very interesting. This process has been very, very citizen or resident initiated. So not really typically how that happens, but it was kind of exciting to see how that process is going. I know might be creating a little bit more work for our planning folks, but I think in the end it's going to be a worthwhile project that we're doing. There are just some uses back there that, unless we go into every single area in the city and look at the zoning for those areas, we wouldn't necessarily know. Like right now, someone could open a fireworks stand, like back by Topgolf. That's technically allowable. So, stuff like that, residents have looked at and they've made some very specific recommendations, and we'll see where that goes. But I also wanted to say just about Colleen Costello, who served 4 terms in the city council district that I now represent. Very sad to see her passing. And I did think it was interesting that we did the walking tour of Main Street, because, as I said on social media, most of the new development in Midvale has Colleen's fingerprints all over it, whether as a council member or as a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So she will be very, very missed. She was one of Midvale's greatest. And I have a similar story to the mayor's. She was very skeptical of me as well whenever I was first elected, and It was 2 years later when I knocked on her door. I was knocking doors for a candidate who was running for the state house, who she also supported. And because we had that connection with each other, that's when our friendship kind of developed from there. But great person. I know Councilmember Glover worked with her for many years. So she will be missed, and we send our condolences to her family. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. City Manager Dahl.
Thank you. I got a few things. The first thing is that in August, we have 3 meetings scheduled. One of them is the Truth and Taxation meeting on August 13th. We have a regular scheduled council meeting on August 6th, and then another meeting on August 20th. We had originally hoped to try to eliminate the August 6th meeting in order to make it so that we still just have the 2 meetings. But we have had a couple of items that need to be addressed that night. So as of right now, the plan is we're going to try to keep the August 6th agenda as lean as possible, and try to just make that a quick meeting. We'll start it at 6 without a workshop, and try to get through that one quickly since we have other meetings that month. Anyways, and then Truth and Taxation as it's worked in the past, and then the 20th will be just a regular city council meeting. But I just want to give you a heads up that we're going to try to keep that one short on the 6th. I talked to a couple of you on this, but on July 4th, we had a significant amount of vandalism at our parks. It required a lot of work from our public works staff in order to clean off the graffiti. There were pickleball nets and tennis nets that were cut, so we've had to order new ones of those. Our gate was ripped off of the softball field, and then also there ended up being fireworks launched from the splash pad that then, when the water was turned on to assume wash that away, it caused problems with our filters. That took a lot of staff time in order to work through that. In addition to just once again saying how much we appreciate the work that public works staff does, we will be making some changes for the 24th, seeing how those work, and then looking to adapt for future years. Some of that will be an increased amount of patrol from UPD, and then we'll also be looking at shutting off the splash pad earlier that night. There shouldn't be fireworks there, but because of the damage that can cause, we're going to be making these adjustments to hopefully make it so that on July 25th, our staff doesn't have to spend the entirety of the day fixing all that. So if anyone's asking why the nets are ripped or any of that kind of stuff, we are working on that. Let's see. One last thing from me, and then Kate, if you want to come up and talk about the City Hall project. Detective Utley, who has been our code enforcement officer, has taken another job. He'll be working as a SRO at the middle school as well as in the elementary schools as well. He has been doing a fantastic job in dealing with very difficult situations. I think most of you have probably in one way, shape, or another needed his services to help with a community issue in your neighborhoods. Anyways, he's been fantastic. He's done a lot for the community even outside of his official capacity, and we're lucky that he's staying in the city and serving us, but we will be having a transition in the code enforcement officer position that I believe will be taking place beginning of August. And so we'll make sure that everyone's aware of who the new code enforcement officer is. We've had a strong track record of having very good people in those positions, but I did want you to know that we will be having a transition then, which we hope is seamless but might be noticed as we're trying to catch someone new up to speed. And with that, Kate, would you talk about what we're seeing with the...
Yeah, so I'll just give you a brief update on the Plaza project. As many of you have noticed, the sidewalk is complete on the North Holden portion of that project. They are currently working on landscaping and putting in the railing along the sidewalk, so you'll see that going in this week and next week. The plan was to then transition to the North Plaza Unfortunately, we're waiting on some additional information on the shade structure. So in the meantime, they're actually going to start demoing the median that's in the middle of Holden Street. That is more of a raised roadway that's chipping away. So they will start that demo this week, and so you'll see that the interior lanes on both northbound and southbound traffic will be closed off so that they can do that safely. They will also, while they're waiting for the shade structure information, they are also going to start pouring the planter walls in the North Plaza. And then hopefully we'll have the footings for the shade structure going in soon. And then you'll see a lot of movement taking place on that North Plaza. But if any issues come up or if you hear any concerns or have any questions, please send them my way. I'm happy to help where I can.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move into our public hearing of the night. Consider a final subdivision request for an 18-unit townhome development located at 160 East, 7200 South in the mixed-use 7200 South overlay. We'll hear from Elizabeth.
Evening. Okay, so yes, this is for a final subdivision. Hopefully this site plan looks a little familiar. We did a rezone and did a development agreement on this property almost 2 years ago now, so in June of 2022. And in the meantime, we've been working on site plan approval for the project. So they had that, they've been through subdivision. So we're just now bringing forth the final plat that will subdivide this into the 18 units that were approved, and it just allows for individual ownership. So nothing too new here, but happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Where did we put the entrances, exits on this one? I can't, is it still 72nd or?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and then the other one on, now I can't
Is it
remember,
Nicoletti?
Nicoletti is a fire
Just
access
the
only.
fire only though?
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, no access there.
Is that wall still up, the cinder block wall? I know there was some,
Currently, yes.
okay.
Yeah.
But obviously that'll come down.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
That'll be a good thing.
Were these the ones that were gonna have like the, on the bottom with?
Mixed use.
Yes.
That's what that means, right? Like,
Yes,
okay,
These are for individual ownership too, right?
yes.
okay. I felt like it's been a while, so I'm trying
Yeah.
to like kind of replay everything backwards. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I like it.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
I would entertain a motion to open the public comment.
Mayor, I motion we open a public hearing.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move into public comment on this item. Do we have any public comments?
Mayor, I move that we close public comment.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second to close public comment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll close the public comment, move on to the action item, approve final subdivision request for an 18-unit townhome development located at 160 East, 7200 South in the mixed-use 7200 South overlay zone. Any further discussion on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Okay, I'm remembering this now. When we did do this, a bunch of people came in. The exit and entrance to the Nicoletti was the big hangup, as Councilmember Robinson reminded me. I'm not hearing anyone else, so it seems like maybe people are, that was it, right? We're, you know, has anyone, I guess, has anyone written in or anything that said, oh, we're, okay.
Yeah, and that's my recollection, is that was the biggest concern, and that Keith was gonna have to look into whether or not that exit could work on 7200 South, and it looks like we've been able to do that, so.
Okay, I just remember a lot of people came in for it, and, okay.
I can't believe that's been 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was like,
When you're having fun.
I thought it was like 3 months ago.
I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the final subdivision for an 18-unit townhome development located at 160 East, 7200 South, with the findings included in the staff report.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Rory, if you would call roll, please.
Yes, Councilmember Billings.
Yes.
Glover.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Brown.
Yes.
And Gettle.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. Move into our consent agenda with just one item, consider minutes of June 18th, 2024. Unless there's any changes to that, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Rory, if you would call roll, please.
Yes, Councilmember Glover?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Brown?
Yes.
Gettle?
Yes.
And Billings?
Yes.
Passes. Thank you. All right, into our first action item, consider resolution number 2024 R37, adopting amendments to the Midvale City Policies and Procedures Manual. And we'll hear from Rory just as soon as you're good.
First of all, I'd like to wish Heidi a happy birthday because July is the best month ever for birthdays.
True.
I think we should sing to her again. On camera.
I'm not singing, I'm just saying. Okay, we added the suggestions that you made at the last meeting. We added the elected officials to the anti-nepotism section. The remote work, we didn't add that in the policy, but it is well known that we will allow remote workers to work from home on bad air days. We did change the parental and caregiver leave to 240 hours. We increased that from 160 to 240. I have a few more changes that we've made, just some things that came up on page 45 of the travel policy. We just had to reword that a little bit because it sounded like that the employees were reimbursing the city for their travel, and it is in fact the city reimbursing the employees for their travel. So we had to make a little bit of adjustment there. Page 56, Juneteenth, we did change back to being on the day of June 19th. However, there was a paragraph item I that needed to be removed because it was stating what the state does. So that's being removed. And then on page 48, we have changed our education reimbursement. We allow $3,000 total in a year. We've had it to where you could request $1,000 each college semester, but there are so many schools now that do it different. There's fewer college semester type schools, and so we've added in there that they can request up to $1,500 or 75% of what their tuition is for a semester or whatever they're at twice a year. So instead of 3 times a year, it will still equal out the $3,000 depending on budget appropriations, but we will allow that because schools do it so different. So those are all the changes I have. And I'm so excited to get this approved. You have no idea. Any questions?
Not seeing any. I would entertain a motion.
I just wanted to make a quick comment, though. The paid parental leave, which, 3 of us up here, Councilmember Glover, me, and Brown, were here for the discussion 6 years ago, last month, that produced a 2-week paid parental leave, and that was a pretty good exercise in governmental compromise, because without compromising, we would have had no paid parental leave policy. So it's nice to see over 6 years, we did extend it from 2 to 4 a few years ago, and now to get it up to 6 makes me, and I know some other council members, maybe all of us, very happy. So just wanted to say that. I did want to ask a question about the air quality, bad air day, work from home. I think it would be important to have an actual policy in place.
For the bad air days itself?
Yeah,
Okay.
because even working for the state where those calls are made, it's kind of like chaos for us.
Okay, we could
So to
definitely
have
add that in
something-
there. Sure.
Yeah, something
sure.
very specific so that people
Okay.
know what to look for, because there are different websites you can go to that might have different information, whether it's technically a mandatory air action day or not. So you'd want to have something in place where, people know exactly where to go to look to make sure that it's a bad air day and
Sure.
not just be like, well, it looks like
It looks a little.
it looks
really-
bad out, I'm going to stay home today.
Okay.
So I think that would be important. But yes,
Absolutely.
I did want to say thank you to Matt, especially with all that information you gave to us about the paid parental leave. That was very
But I want to be very clear,
informative.
all I did was summarize
You
all
didn't
of the
do it.
work that Rory
Okay.
did.
Thank you, Rory, for that
You're
information.
welcome. It was actually Ashley.
The other thing is that as we work on the air quality changes, what I would like for us to be able to do, though, is just make sure that it's still clear, much like we do with with people who are working from home, that it's, if there's a meeting that needs a person to come in, or there's something, if we can adjust the schedule so that they don't need to come in, that's perfect and everything, but it's not gonna be there's some meeting that is mandatory and they get to not do it because it's a bad air day. I mean, we need to make that adjustment in there so that we can stay functioning.
Yeah, and those things, I have a very keen interest in employee benefits and policies like this. So, I defer to those details to you and other senior staff. But as long as we have something in place that for a very, normal run-of-the-mill day, where there's not a meeting like that, like a council meeting, we wouldn't want just the council members to show up and the rest of you be at home because it's a bad air day. But yeah, I'm totally, whatever those details you think are best, I think I'd be agreeable to that. But as long as there's a plan in place for people to stay home, the more people we can get to stay at home on bad air days, hopefully the less bad air days we'll have.
I also just, I think what would make the most sense this evening would be that if the council were so inclined to approve the packet then tonight.
Yeah.
And then we would work on that adjustment and bring that back to you in
Yeah.
a subsequent meeting.
Could bring that back as like a new policy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sounds
that
good.
sounds great.
thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'm scrolling through this manual to find the actual motion.
Let's see a motion.
I don't know that I see.
Well, it wasn't in the front.
I can just read it off. Dustin wants to.
I want to do it.
Yeah, I just read.
Okay, I got it. Hey, Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 2024 R37, adopting amendments to the Midvale City Policies and Procedures Manual.
Second.
Hey, Dustin, thank you.
Hey, Councilmember Gettle, second.
We have a motion and a second on that. Any further discussion? Rory, if you would call roll, please.
Yes, Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Yes.
Billings.
Yes.
And Glover.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. Item B, consider ordinance number 2024-020, establishing a temporary land use regulation relating to Chapter 17-717, Transit-Oriented Overlay Zone of the Midvale Municipal Code. Adam.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As stated, this is a temporary land use regulation or a moratorium as it relates to the TODO or Transit-Oriented Development Overlay Zone. The reason we're bringing this before you tonight is the recently approved station area plans for both the Midvale Center and the Midvale Fort Union have a number of recommendations that planning staff is currently in the process of working on. What this temporary land use regulation would do is it would basically halt any new development applications or rezone applications for the TODO specifically. This will allow staff to make those changes and then bring those through to the Planning Commission and then back to you for approval or for adoption. The station area plans discussed, increased densities for these areas. What we're looking to do is actually with that throw in a mixed use requirement in certain areas. We've been working with GIS and coming up with different maps where we feel that this would make the most sense for a mixed use requirement. It also will address setbacks and height. Again, planning staff is working on these draft amendments. And then again, this just allows those to move forward without any new development applications coming in. We don't have any that are pending right now, so this isn't negatively affecting anyone or affecting anyone that we know of. We haven't, like I said, there's no imminent applications, but this does allow us to make those changes and then run them through the process. The temporary land use regulation is in effect for 180 days. This should be sufficient time to get those through the process. With that, I can answer any questions if you have any.
I just have a couple of thoughts on this. The UTA, I think, put an article out on it, on the station area plans, not just ours, but like West Jordan's. And I think it was messaged really poorly because I had multiple people thinking UTA owned all the property around it because they kind of said it like they adopted it, which I get that sort of the procedural aspect. So I had to clarify with like 3 or 4 people. And a lot of them felt the West Jordan one is pretty insulting by Gardner Village. Like, can't we just do quarter-acre lots if West Jordan can do quarter-acre lots? And I'm still protesting that formally, that they think that's appropriate. Because I feel like if we're going to lose our ability to control zoning, it'll be for things like that. You know, and a lot of people said, you know, if the Gardner Village one can just be farm, whatever, and their TOD, whatever they call that study, they're like, especially over by me, right? They were like, let's just make sure, let's make Center Street like that. It's like, we don't think it works like that. So I don't know, not our fault at all, but I don't know if we want to put something out on how that process works, some more, or something along those lines, because they thought, oh, the post office is moving, right away. They thought all that stuff could happen. And
Yeah, it's obviously it's stuff that I think would be, you know, in the long run, it would be good if that could happen.
Yeah.
And then UTA, yeah, by state code, they had to adopt those as well. And they own some property, but they don't own
most of it.
Most of it. I do believe they are wanting to put out an RFP to find a developer to work with one of their sites. Again, that's a whole process they have to go through, and I've reached out to them so they know that we would like to be involved, at least kept in the loop on all of that. But again, this regulation would basically make it so nothing could be submitted until the new regulations are in place, the new zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's good. I think we did a good work on it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I weirdly, because things like that happen all the time. I had, I think, 4 different people text me about it. I'm like, oh, this is new. You know?
We did get some compliments from the state and WFRC. They were really appreciative of the work that we've done on the stationary plan. So I like to stay in their good graces.
Adam, do you know off the top of your head, one of the discussion points that came out of the meeting I had with a resident with the Riverwalk overlay zone was if we could or could not designate that area back there as a TODO zone instead?
I think that would be hard just because
It's too
it's
far
really
from-
not that close to a
Yeah.
transit station. If
That's what I
anything, it
thought.
would be immediate to Bingham Junction. And there's no TODO in that area currently.
Okay.
So,
So the answer I should relay to them is basically no.
yeah, I think on that unrelated topic, luckily they're working with planning staff, and I think they're coming to some consensus on what
Okay.
that will look like.
They're kind of turning it into what I call TODO light.
We'll see how that goes. But yeah, we would recommend that you as council approve this ordinance, and then we'll keep moving forward with that.
All right, if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 2024-0-20, establishing a temporary land use regulation relating to chapter 17-7-17, transit-oriented development overlay zone, TODO, of the Midvale Municipal Code.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Rory, if you'd call roll, please.
Yes, Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Yes.
Billings.
Yes?
Glover.
Aye.
And Robinson.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. Item C, consider resolution number 2024 R38, authorizing the mayor to complete the participation forms on behalf of Midvale City and join the new national opioids settlement with Kroger. We will hear from Garrett.
I think this is now the 3rd or 4th time since taking over in my position that I've come before you on something similar to this. This is a settlement with Kroger, who runs the Smith's grocery stores here in Utah and those pharmacies. Similar to the other settlements that we've participated in, the more cities and counties that participate in the settlement means the more money that will be allocated to the state and counties in order for opioid-related interventions and whatnot. So with this settlement, I believe it's if they receive 100% participation from the eligible counties and municipalities, the state of Utah as a whole would be eligible for $44 million from Kroger for those types of interventions. Again, we won't receive any money ourselves because we don't run a health department and other things where those interventions occur. But with our participation, it allows for more resources that will come via Salt Lake County or the state to help benefit our community. And as Matt mentioned, we're trying to keep the agenda light on our next meeting, so I am asking you to suspend the rules tonight. This is the first time that I've brought it to you. I'm asking you to suspend the rules so that way the mayor can be authorized to go through the participation forms and allow us to attach to this settlement. Are there any questions I can answer?
Garrett, do you know, I know we're not getting any money specifically, but I know the county mayor, Mayor Wilson, held a press conference maybe 2 weeks ago, and there were a few people in the medical community who were a bit disappointed where she intended to spend some of that money, and that was on increased police officers, which kind of, you know, I don't disagree that we need more police officers in Salt Lake County, but do we need to use the opioid settlement money, you know, for that purpose rather than, you know, helping people with mental health or substance use treatment programs? Do we have any sort of ability to say, like, you know, we would maybe prefer this versus that? Because I know if we don't sign on to it, I mean, that's less money that they could use for those purposes, which I don't want to play like hardball with that, but I do think using this money for purposes other than, you know, drug rehabilitation and mental health services seems like, you know, it's not the wisest use of that money.
And without getting into the politics of whether or not that's should be what it's spent on, I can tell you we are not involved in the negotiations either at the state level, the county level, or the national level where these are going on. And so for our participation, it's really, we have a very marginal impact on really how any of this goes because we weren't one of the parties in this litigation. I can tell you that it's my understanding that after the Philip Morris and the other tobacco settlements that occurred 90s and 2000s or whatnot related to smoking, there are a lot more guardrails that have been put in place by both those negotiating on behalf of the government and then those negotiating on behalf of these companies to make sure that whatever the funding is being used for is directly related to side effects of the opioid epidemic. So again, without getting into the politics, if opioid money is being spent for that, I do know that that was because it was negotiated and it is believed by both parties to be in agreement that that is a side effect of the opioid epidemic itself. And then it's up to the individual political entities about how they're going to use it within those guardrails.
So basically it'll be like well, I know the Utah Health Department will be involved, but the county health department as well.
That's my understanding, at least in previous settlements, and it wasn't as clear with the communication we received in this one. In previous settlements involving the counties and the state, like I believe the first settlement that we brought to you in 2021. In that settlement, it was going to be split 50-50 between the state and the participating counties. So the state would take 50% to do statewide things, and then amongst the counties, they were negotiating the formula for the remaining 50% of how that would be allocated amongst the county governments, but generally amongst their health departments and whatnot.
So if we as a body would say, no, we don't want to be involved in this, and I'm sure that's not what's going to happen, would that entire $44 million be in jeopardy, or would it just be like proportional to our population? So it would be 43.99.
So each of these settlements has been negotiated a little bit differently. That first one had certain thresholds of if you hit 80% participation, then you get like 50% of the money.
Oh, okay.
If you hit 90%, then it was like 60. And it was really pushing you to be in the 95 to 100% participation, because that's a significant amount of money that would be gained by each additional participating entity. I don't think it has anything to do with our population. I think we are all weighted the same, is my understanding. And so they're just looking at the total number of participating political entities. And if we don't participate, then it's just -1 rather than minus 30 some odd thousand people.
So it's not like this is where to make our last stand on the law enforcement aspect of it.
That's a decision up to you, but it would be, like I said, a very marginal impact if we choose not to participate.
Thank you for that. I was very curious, and, you know, I have my own thoughts on this, and my day job and my job as a council member, you know, I feel that using opioid settlement money for law enforcement, you know, kind of exacerbates the problem in a way. You know, it's, you know, folks who have an opioid addiction, you know, putting them in jail typically isn't the best way to solve that addiction problem, but that's neither here nor there.
Any other discussion? I'd entertain a motion.
And we have to suspend the rules, right?
Yes.
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules and approve resolution number 2024-R-38, authorizing the mayor to complete the participation forms on behalf of Midvale City and join the new national opioids settlement agreement with Kroger.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Rory, would you call roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Gettle.
Yes.
Billings.
Yes.
Glover.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
And Brown.
Yes.
All right, that passes. Thank you. Moving on to our first discussion item, discuss update to entryway monuments.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to come and give you an update on where this is. This is largely wrapping up. If you recall, this has been ongoing for nearly a year. So in August of last year, we started this whole process. Basically, we contracted with a consulting group to look at kind of creating these cohesive, unifying, if you will, entry monuments to kind of to note that you're into Midvale and to kind of create a sense of place and kind of what Midvale is and trying to become. And so with that, they did come and give a presentation to you in December of last year and kind of showed you some of the options, where things started, where they ended up. But before I get to there, I just wanted to show you this map. These are the areas in the study. I know it's a little harder to see, but you do have them in the study, which was included in the materials for the meeting. But these are the key areas where these signs or these entry monuments will be placed. You'll note that on most major north and south corridors, as well as east and west corridors, there will be some kind of a monument. There will be, I think, a key area that will be noted is as you get off of 215 onto Union Park Avenue, there's proposed to be one there. There's also proposed to be one as you come in from the east if you're going west on Fort Union. So there'll be one kind of off the freeway and then one again as you're coming west into Midvale. There's also some along the west side, along Jordan River Boulevard, Center Street, and then the major north-south corridors such as 700 West, both on the north and the south side, State Street on the north and south side, and 7th and 9th East. So we tried to get most of those major thoroughfares, if you will, coming into the city. When the consultant group came before you in December, they proposed what they called an arts and culture theme. And if you recall, it had quite a number of colors, and that was a little bit off-putting to some of, basically to the council, and then also to the public at large. And so we received a lot of comments to kind of tone it down, if you will. And so we went back to the consultant and said, you know, we like, the overall theme was appreciated, but let's take out so many of the colors. And so the term I like to use is this was kind of muted a little bit. And so this is kind of the updated version that they came back with, and we thought we would bring it back to you. This reduces the amount of colors, but it is consistent with the coloring. So you'll notice that they do repeat, but there's not such a wide range of colors. In addition, the base of the monument was also simplified. Before, it had some additional elements. It had like musical notes and all sorts of things, and we're like, take that out. Let's just keep it simple. And so this was what they're calling the horizontal concept, or the primary concept, for areas when you come into the city that have more room to work with, such as when you get off of 215. This is the type of concept that you'll see.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to move on totally. I think we talked about this, and it might have been Councilmember Gettle's idea. I like the idea of removing the word "in." You know, so it's the middle of everything.
Oh, like just removing that.
Removing the word "in," because then you're the middle of everything sounds way better than in the middle of everything. Because when you're in the middle of everything, maybe you're just squished between stuff. But when you're the middle of everything, you know, you're sort of the hub of the wheel.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's too far along, or, you know, but
no,
that's
I
something
think
I
it's
like.
something that would be easy enough to ask to amend.
And I don't know, I felt like Councilmember Gettle brought it up, and I've thought about it since then, that I think we should rebrand that, if other people are, you know.
I agree. It's just semantically, when you say in the middle of everything, it's like that means everything's happening around you, not necessarily where you are currently located. So my only question is if we would do that, if people would wonder if we forgot to put the word in.
Yeah, because you're right, it is on everything else that we have as a city.
Yeah, it would be like a rebrand idea overall, but.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, when I mentioned it, you know, I think we're doing a rebrand, and now might be the time to think about that. I was wondering too, maybe we could put it in quotes, like quotation marks, the middle of everything.
I like it.
So this is, so they've given us, the consultants have given us both a day rendering and a night rendering for both of these horizontal and vertical concepts. So you'll notice here's the night rendering, lights up. Again, the color scheme is, it's simplified, not as many colors, but it does signify kind of that arts and culture theme that we thought was kind of pretty cool. Here's the vertical.
I'm gonna,
Oh,
sorry,
go
just
ahead.
1 second. I've just been trying to mull this over, what the change of "in" means overall, and that had escaped me at the previous discussion, but I do think it all depends on what the meaning of "in" is. No, I'm kidding.
That's a great reference.
But I'm just trying to think through what it would take for us. I do think that if we're gonna change it here, we probably have to look at making it a change everywhere, but I don't know what that all entails, and that's something that we should hop on just to even understand what that means. I'm trying to think of like all the places we have it and that kind of stuff where we would need to make the changes. I'm sure Laura's mind is churning back there.
She's like, no,
but,
not even thinking at all.
So I 100% agree with you on the structure of that phrase and the difference in what it means with the "in" on it. And so let us also look at what it would mean to sort of make that change overall.
Yeah, we can continue that thought.
Which I totally get and appreciate. I also don't know if removing it just from the signs, you know, I don't know if we're the same as like Nike, if they removed it from their, you know, just do it or something where everyone would know, right? Like, I don't know if it's as,
Just do
I don't
it.
know if it's, you know, our branding is there and important. I don't know if it's as
Do it.
there. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Just do.
Just do.
Just do.
Or do it, or remove just, right, or something. My point is, you know, the
Yeah.
branding, again, we should be consistent and have a whole guideline towards it. But in something like this, removing it where there's, you know, a bunch of colors and stuff, maybe people won't notice it as much.
I mean, is it something you, Matt, would want some consensus or just an idea from the council that we would like that
To think
be-
about it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I do think, I mean, there's the overall thumbs up on the whole thing, and then, yeah, I guess it would be helpful to see if folks feel a similar way about the word in, and if that is the way that everyone feels, then we'll proceed with looking at it. If that is not what everyone feels, then we would keep it the same and not look into that additional change.
Here is the day concept of the vertical one, unless you had other questions or.
When does he want us to tell him? Was my question. He kind of asked a question there, and I didn't know what
thumbs
that
up.
meant procedurally. Did
Well,
you,
I think sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say at the end, once we're done discussing it.
like,
then-
of this discussion?
Of this discussion.
Okay, I didn't know where that was going. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So this would be used in spaces that are more constrained. So some of the corridors where the spacing is not fit for a horizontal monument, this would be in place. And then there's also a nighttime rendering of that as well. In addition, the report that the consultant group gave us prioritized what they felt would be the most impactful and most important areas to focus on first. And I will go back to the map. Those would be, so the first, number 1, 2, and 3 are along Jordan River Boulevard, so along Jordan River Boulevard on the west. Number 2, State Street as you come in from the north. And then number 3 on Union Park Avenue as you're coming off of I-215. So those are the first, those are the recommended top 3, and then we go down in order from there. But all of them are important. It's just they felt that these would have the most impact for people coming into the city. And that's just a brief update. We can continue to mull over the in versus no in. But I think I'm appreciative of the changes that they made. They took into consideration a lot of the comments while still keeping true to that arts and culture theme. So with that, and if you have any questions in the interim, feel free to reach out to me and we can continue discussion.
Go back to the night, or
Yep.
the upright one.
Okay.
Okay, so, and now go to the regular one. The cross one
Oh,
at
okay.
night. So this one has white in all of the letters except city.
Yeah.
I think
And
it
then
may
you go-
just be the way it was
Okay,
drawn. I don't know
I
that
mean,
it's supposed to be, it would be lit up, I think.
Well, if you go back to that one though, it's lit up, but it's not got the white in the.
These are the first three.
I see what you're saying.
I just-
That's something I could ask and clarify. I don't
For
know
me,
that it
that-
was, may have been an
With the
overlook.
white in it, it shows up.
Yeah.
It's just to show us what it would look like if the light burned out.
I believe the
I don't know.
intent,
I guess what I'm saying is they need to be.
yeah, I
coordinated.
believe the intent was to have all the letters lit, and I can reach out and say, hey, that needs to change. That's something pretty simple that I think we can do.
So I have another question. Sorry. This Center Street nighttime one is super cool.
Yeah.
That's in the packet. Are they gonna do is there different signs that we're gonna do?
The Center Street nighttime one.
There's like other renderings from
good
things I've
rendering.
never seen before.
Oh, those were previous versions that,
Those are the
sorry.
ones you
Oh,
said
sorry.
no to.
They included those in the report because as a steering committee, they gave us different options.
Oh,
And
I was
so
hoping
as
that
we
meant-
moved forward, we narrowed those down and changed those. They just wanted to kind of give you an idea of where things started and how they evolved. That's where that's from.
Okay, because
And they were in the last time we presented the.
Yeah,
remember
they
seeing-
showed,
I don't think we've seen those, because I think there would have been people that would have said these would be preferred.
okay.
Which, sorry.
What page is that on, Brian?
Just so we know.
213, 213-ish, 212, 213.
I believe, yeah, you're probably
yeah,
looking
those
at
are
one of the
nice.
industrial themes.
Yeah.
We wanted to keep, that was one that we liked as a steering committee, that type of theme, because there is, I mean, industry did play a large part in Midvale's history. So that's where I think some of the base materials, like the black, that was kind of a carryover of that theme. But yeah.
So I think, I feel like the council members feel like they haven't seen these ones, and I'm a little concerned that maybe they would be preferred. I don't know if that's too far gone to discuss them or slow the project down, but I feel like I've never seen them.
Yeah, I think
misspoke.
at this
I
point.
misspoke. We didn't
Okay.
show it to you. I apologize. It was clarified.
I couldn't remember. I thought they may have shown them like in a succession of where they started to where they came out, but I know they are in the report.
Favorite one, like hands down.
So
I will say this one is still, the ones that we're looking at are still my favorite. I agree with Paul's comment of making sure that the lighting is on the same. And as much as I think the industrial one looks nice, I feel like you could plop that in any city, throw any name on there, and, it would look fine.
The historical one is the one I'm talking about, that have all the tile, the
Yeah, the
mosaic.
tile ones. Yeah, to me, I like ours, or this one. I think it looks unique and will stand out.
we have cost estimates that include the construction, the sign itself, and landscaping around all of them. So as we continue to move forward, I'll make sure those inconsistencies are taken care of. We can also further discuss, like I said earlier, whether in is in or out, and then move forward from there. But again, that's, they gave us a final report. It's still kind of like the final draft, so it's not completely done, but it's largely in its final format.
All right, that was just a discussion item. Anything else?
Yes, no action on this.
Okay, great. We'll move on to discussion.
Sorry. Just for clarity, though, were we going to check to see if we wanted, if the group felt, it wouldn't be an official vote, but a straw poll on the word in?
I'm fine removing the in. Me too.
Okay.
I don't have an issue, well, and I know we're not saying we'll do it. I don't have an issue with it. I would like, if that moves us into a full rebrand, I worry about time and cost and doing that right now.
What we're saying is, yeah, we'll go into that next. What does it mean?
Yeah.
Do we have to, if we remove it here, do we have to remove it everywhere? Just what does that mean if people are into that, into removing in? We're not gonna just do that. But if no one was interested or the majority wasn't interested, then we were gonna
Yeah,
look into that.
we don't want to rush it or anything, but I thought it kind of came up, and maybe, there was a lot that we talked about that day, so it might have sort of slipped.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to discussion item B, discuss Community Renewable Energy Agency participation. We'll hear from Aaron.
Evening, Council, Mayor. I'm Erin Summers, Project and Policy Manager. I am going to be talking with you again about the Community Renewable Energy Agency. Last time I was here, we submitted an application, and I'm just going to quickly do an overview, reminding you of what we talked about last time and where we're standing, and then I'm going to go into some more details over the interlocal agreement and the utility agreement, which would be our next step. So the agency was established in 2019, and it is an interlocal entity which allows us to collaborate directly with Rocky Mountain Power to provide participating communities with net 100 renewable energy. Our responsibility would be to, as a city, would be to pay a certain amount of money over 2 payments to help pay for the operational costs of program design and different needs, such as attorneys or things like that, in order to make sure our program design is adequate. Once the program is set up and operational, implemented, community members who decide to participate would be expected to see a $2 to $7 per month increase in their power bill, except for those who qualify for low-income assistance, in which case they would get a credit to that same amount. On June 18th, you approved the resolution 24R36, which allowed us to submit the application to become a prospective party. This was a non-binding application, but it allowed the agency to request information from Rocky Mountain Power to really understand the electricity usage within Midvale across all customers so that they're able to give us a current look at what that would look like to be a participating member and what that would mean for our residents, but additionally, what it would look like over time. Now that we have turned in this application and have our fee done, they are going to be getting that information and then sharing that with Midvale staff over the next couple of weeks so that we can fully research and come back to council with what that looks like for our residents. But the next steps for us, as per the direction that the agency set up, would be to sign the interlocal agreement and the utility agreement. It would be to pay the initial fee of just under $11,000. We would have to appoint a representative either by resolution, which I think is the preferred method for appointing representatives of Midvale, or we can also, based off of their rules, have a signed letter from our mayor stipulating who our representative is. And one of the items that the agency will be helping Midvale staff with is developing a plan for low-income assistance and submitting a geographic map that fits their requirements for Rocky Mountain Power. And that will be some of the information that we bring back to council. The plan currently is that we will be back before you on August 20th for action and further discussion. So we will be signing on to the existing interlocal agreement. This is a term of 50 years. This interlocal established a entity which allows for the agency to create decision-making processes of the program design, allow for cost-sharing allocation, resource solicitation and acquisition, and other program issues. The way that the interlocal works is they have a before the ordinance is passed withdrawal set of rules, and then there is also this allowance that if we choose to become a participating member and we end up passing an ordinance down the line, there is still a way for us to withdraw from the interlocal, which would be the governing body, you guys, not appropriating funding moving forward. And that would not be a breach of the agreement, but it would be a withdrawal from the agreement according to the interlocal. Otherwise, until we pass the ordinance, we would have to give the agency 30 days notice, and we would not receive any refunds. One item is if there is a dissolution of this group, any unspent monies would return back to the participating communities as a portion of what they contributed. The utility agreement with Rocky Mountain Power and the agency is set up that as long as the program is active and there are participating customers within each entity, the agreement is active. This allows for Rocky Mountain Power to notify all eligible customers and administer the program over time, but it does stipulate that member communities, so if Midvale were to become a member, we would be agreeing to pay the actual cost of the two legally required, based off of the statute, sets of notices that go out to every single customer to allow them to opt out of the program. It also stipulates that the agency will pay up to $200,000 for third-party experts for program design and implementation. That is the cap, and that money will come out of those portion of the fees that we will be that each participating community gives. So the next step for the agency, regardless if we join, will be preparing to go to solicitation. They're going to be sending out an RFP to find the renewable energy source to sign a power purchase agreement. Functionally, they are looking for an already established power plant, which would allow, which is capable of already connecting to Rocky Mountain Power's grid. And that power plant would either maintain the ownership of the entity and we would be just purchasing the amount of power that we need from them, or Rocky Mountain Power would have the option to purchase the plant. I was informed that it is unlikely that Rocky Mountain Power will purchase the plant, so odds are this will be a third party that we are only purchasing that power from as needed. That power will be paid for through the customers, that $2 to $7 per month. Now, the way that the program is designed is to insulate local governments from having to purchase or pay out for any of the part of the PPA. They do this, they have a couple of processes that they're looking at. One, Salt Lake City has applied for a large grant from the EPA to help with any additional premium costs that might be greater than what we're able to pay as the program starts. The next piece is that they are deliberately undersizing the initial energy acquisition to be smaller than the amount of expected participation so that we're able to start the program and have a bit of a fund balance, which would allow us to ramp up the program by 2030, and that would make sure that we're never in a position where there is a short fund of paying for that premium that would cause that number to go over $7 per month per customer. And then finally, if it does go higher, we're looking at that sliding scale going up to 7. In the case where none of that is possible, if the PPA would come back and we would have that number higher than 7 at this point, none of the communities have signed that ordinance into their code, which would likely mean that no one would sign the ordinance into their code, and the interlocal would then be terminated. So after the PPA is in place, the program design and all these agreements have to go before the Utah Public Service Commission as per the state statute, and the commission gets to approve or decline the program. Now, they have some level of oversight where they might be able to approve parts of the program design and ask for amendments or changes to existing ones, which is why it is set up that after approval of the program comes through, each member community has 90 days to adopt the ordinance. The ordinance is already written as a part of the application that goes before the commission. They have sample ordinances that each member community would adopt. And if there is any issues within that ordinance or pieces like that that this governing body does not want to move forward with, a failure to adopt the ordinance, even if other communities do, just means that we would then exit the interlocal and the utility agreement, and we would have no further obligations to the agency. And then, as I mentioned before, if for some reason what the commission came back with was untenable to all the communities, or they simply denied the program designs, the agreements would be terminated if no solution could be drawn upon. Additionally, I wanted to bring up that PPA terms are usually for about 20 years. Last time, Councilmember Brown, you had brought up that what happens if we face new technologies, and there are better technologies that would be better for our residents. So because they typically set these power purchasing agreements for 20 years, that gives us this balance between a reasonable price that is locked in, along with the ability to look for new resources as they come about and become affordable and reliable, which would continue to give the agency an opportunity to sign into new PPAs as new technologies come to be.
Thank you for following up on that.
Yes, and that is my presentation. Are there any questions, concerns, and feedback?
I think the program is, if you strip all of that away and get down to the nuts and bolts of it, like, it's great to offset, your carbon footprint. That is something an individual can do right now. Rocky Mountain Power has a program which I am already enrolled in, where I purchase, like $8 a month, and it offsets my energy usage for the year. So, I hate to use the word that I'm known for, but this is very government-y. And, it's something that, while you were talking, I saw how quick it was to sign up for the program yourself. It takes 2 minutes to do, and it's not this 50-year government lease and, interlocal agreement. So I don't know. I really do think that the program is worthwhile, but what you just presented, and thank you for presenting it, you did a great job, but it's also extraordinarily complicated, unnecessarily so, when we could just tell people that this program basically exists at RockyMountainPower.com, and you can sign up today and not wait for, your council members to decide whether they want to be in this program or not. I would also note that, Salt Lake City doesn't participate in this program.
They do.
They do, okay.
Mhm, they are an anchor community.
Okay,
So they
I didn't think they
pay
did,
more into
okay.
it.
Well, that's good to know. But yeah, I don't know. I feel that we're a different community, obviously, than Mill Creek, which, Mayor Silvestrini was here. That's something that their community probably pushes their elected officials a little bit more for than us. And my final thought is, again, like, we can do a very good campaign of letting people know that, you can sign up for this yourself. But I don't like the idea of opting everyone in automatically. I think that just sets us up for a lot of complaints. And I know that there's an easy opt-out process, but there are so many people, myself included, unless my bill is dramatically different, like, I might not even know, from 1 month to the next. If my electric bill is $6 more, I might not know for and that's not a great thing about me personally, but I'm just saying, if it was I wouldn't know that I was automatically enrolled in this. And then when I found out, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. But I also already participate in a program like this. So I don't know that I necessarily need to put more money into it through the city initiative as well.
They do have to notify you separate from your bill, since a lot of people don't open up their power bills each month unless the number is higher than they had anticipated or budgeted for. And those should come separately through the mail. But it is an opt-out process rather than an opt-in process.
Really quickly, I'm not signed up for Rocky Mountain Power's thing, but I just looked and it says that I can't sign up because they do it in blocks, and then it says this little box and it says, we'll tell you if there's any blocks available, and it says 0 blocks are available to purchase.
I guess
So it
I
says
bought too
right
many
now.
of them.
So I don't know how that all works. The other thing, like, I hear what you're saying on we're opting, that somebody might be upset for that they have to opt out, but then I think of, what do we do here that anybody can opt out? When we raise water rates, you can't opt out. When we raise property taxes, you can't opt out. You can't opt out of your sales tax. And so for me, I think it's really exciting that folks do have that ability to opt out. It's not anything that we see anywhere else.
And in the time you just talked, I signed up for 2 additional blocks. So I guess it must be address specific, but you can do 1 block costs $1.95, and 8 blocks is enough to offset your normal household annual use. But, that's, I don't know. And also, we have, compared to Mill Creek, we have far more rental units in Midvale than Mill Creek. So then you get into that complication, like when you rent a house, sometimes those utility bills don't even go to the people who live there. Even worse, sometimes they don't go to the property owner, and now the property owner might have some issue of being signed up or not. So, just comparing like the success that they may have had with this program in Mill Creek and other places, that might not necessarily be true for Midvale. So, ultimately, obviously, I'm one who supports renewable energy to the point where I just ordered 2 more blocks of renewable energy. I'll see if I can go back to my previous number. But, I think it's one of those things that it's really should be up to like the individual consumer rather than, us telling all of our residents and sometimes property owners who don't even live in Utah that, hey, you're signed up for this. We signed you up. You're welcome. Here's how you opt out, but only for the first 3 billing cycles. And after that, you have to pay a penalty. So I love the idea. I just don't think that this is reasoned out enough for me to support, that massive change of enrolling every single resident of Midvale in this program. Right now, anyway, that's how I feel.
I wrote down even before you did that, opt out, it bothers me a lot. If I want to join something, I want to be able to opt in, not opt out. And the other problem that I have is this whole thing is that they don't have a plan, right? I mean, we're paying for them to put a plan together to see how much this is going to cost. It's like, that's completely backwards. They need to have the plan and come to us and say, this is what it's going to cost, and this is the reason that you should opt in. We're doing this thing completely backwards. I don't like it.
Did we pay for the plan already?
Well, we paid something, haven't we?
Was it paid the application fee?
We did pay $100 for the application fee.
I couldn't remember what I know there were some steps along the way, so I'm trying to remember.
And
I have a problem with.
Yeah, as much as I agree with process-wise, I mean, this is what the legislature provided. And Rocky Mountain Power said, that's great, we're not gonna do it for you, you can do it and come to us.
And I understand
so
that,
me,
but
that's
it's just-
to me, that's a Rocky Mountain Power issue, not these communities trying to make this work.
I guess I'm sort of in the middle. I don't mind the idea of paying to do the plan. However, if it came back and looked like it is now, I probably would vote no, right? But, the plan might come back and look viable and long-term, and then I might vote yes. So I agree with Councilmember Glover. I wish they had the plan so we could decide on it. So kind of making us pay for it kind of stinks, but also what else will kind of get the ball rolling, for something like this? So I don't mind looking into it, but I think I was clear last time, I'm very skeptical of it, and I don't like opt out for anything, not just this, right? On any method, I think it's a little snake oil salesman-y where it's like, well, because and they don't, maybe this isn't their intention, but it's like, well, it's only $6. They have someone like Councilmember Gettle who doesn't look at his bill, and they're hoping, I don't either. I just wanted to agree, for $6 rate. And so they're really kind of hoping like, and maybe this isn't their intention, but that's how it come across, like, oh, no one's going to notice this, so they won't opt out in those first 3 months or whatever. And to me, that just sort of lacks a little bit of integrity where you're not giving that person the choice. But again, maybe the plan comes back and I love it. So I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I don't mind looking into it, but it should be known. Like, I don't want Mill Creek and them being like, oh, Midvale, at least from my perspective, all in. Like, I'd like to see what they have, but, a plan, part of my skeptics is I don't really get what the plan is paying for. It's really not that expensive overall, the plan, and it makes me feel like it'll just be a plan of a plan, like, very early stages, and it's like, well, we kind of get that. I don't know, maybe they're more prepared than I think, but I just want to make that clear. Like, I mostly agree with Glover and Gettle, but I also don't mind looking.
The problem is they're gonna estimate a take rate of how many people are actually gonna sign up for this, which they absolutely do not know.
Right.
They're gonna guess. It's kind of like Utopia. They came to us and they said, we're gonna get this take rate.
And it wasn't close.
It never happened. So if we do this and the take rate is a lot less than the plan says it's gonna be, then it's either gonna fail or they're gonna charge you more.
They probably can get closer because of the opt-out, but not for the right reasons. Where Utopia was an opt-in.
Now, I know that you're not necessarily, you're not part of agency.
No,
Uh,
not unless you guys vote
She could
to
be.
have
Based
me
on
be.
my understanding
She
from this
might
is
be.
that we are still just purchasing the energy that is being used. So if somebody opts out, it's not like we're purchasing energy that we don't need anymore, so now that other customers are picking up that cost. We're just purchasing. what
She
we
said
use.
No.
they said last time you would.
That's not what I meant, though. I meant if they say it's gonna be $7 a month, but they get half the people
It'll be 14.
drop it, then it's either they're gonna charge more than the $7 to offset it, or they're gonna go under. I mean, that's the two choices.
Yeah.
Correct?
That's what they said last time.
I mean, there's no way they can make it work unless they raise the rate.
Yes, that was my
And
understanding.
Isn't part of the study to determine how much this is actually gonna be? If it's gonna be $7 or $12 or $5?
That will be really determined through the PPA, like how much we get charged per watt of energy that we're using, and then based off of the population. And
Well, how many people actually will stay opt-in?
yes, and that will provide us, I believe that Salt Lake City, when they were speaking with me, talked about there being a range. I know that Salt Lake City did a survey where they asked people and they went above the $7 and they had an 80% rate of interest for folks at $10 per month extra for staying within. And again, not Midvale, but they have done some research on where people start to drop out and where folks are comfortable with this. However, there is an element of a sliding scale. Yes, sir.
And that's what the plan is supposed to tell us.
It will, yes, it will
That's-
tell us more of what it would
I mean,
cost
that's
per
the
resident.
reason to do the plan, is to figure out how much it'll really cost, where they're gonna get the energy, how much it's gonna cost. But again, we come back to it, and that's making assumptions through their surveys or whatever, that this is how many people are gonna participate, which may or may not work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if they can come back with a hard $8 is the most, something like that, that we can at least tell people that, like, hey, if you opt into this, the most that your bill can possibly go up is $8 or whatever number that is, 10. You know, that's going to be important to me to vote for it because, again, you know, a lot of us are fortunate enough where $6, $8, or $10 a month is not significant, but there are plenty of people who live right here in Midvale who $10 is a make or break each month. So I wouldn't want to put anyone into that position where, you know, they have to go through that extra hassle of trying to figure out A, why their bill is $10 more per month, and B, trying to figure out how to cancel that if they can't afford it.
And there was like an offset for low income, but that, again, would be a process that they would have to go through. They'd have to figure out, you know, I don't think they're.
If you qualify for low income, you should be automatically enrolled.
Enrolled, yeah.
That credit should be automatic if you're already a part
Which could be
of those
interesting with
programs.
rental though, right? Because depending on how that goes, and if the owner just passes through the cost, then they wouldn't qualify, right? Because the state wouldn't know. That's what I'm saying. It's a good intention there, but that could just be another kind of administrative hurdle for a consumer.
So, as I think was discussed earlier in this, we have to get to the next step by August 31st, which means the August 20th meeting would be the meeting where we would take action on this. Right now, what I'm hearing is that there are two members who seem, are less interested in proceeding because of concerns about the opt-in, although Dustin, you sort of changed that if there was like a hard number. Bryant was good with sort of exploring further just to see what we could, what we learn in sort of the next steps. Heidi, Bonnie,
I'm
you
with
guys?
Brian on that one. I think it's worth exploring the next steps. I don't know if I'm 100% sold on it.
Does that, and just so we're clear, when you say next steps, like it's worth the $11,000 to get into that?
It is for
into
me.
that planning
Yeah.
phase? Okay. All right.
But knowing that is, if it's not a good plan, like it has to be a very good plan. Right? Sometimes we say yes and it's just the rubber stamp. To me, if they came to me today and said, it's not gonna look much different than what you've seen, then it's a no already. But the plan can come back and have like what Councilmember Gettle said, where it makes sense. So, you know, sometimes I feel like we're not clear when we're directing staff. I think that 11,000 is fine, but I'm very skeptical.
Okay.
Is that fair? Is that a good direction?
No, that's helpful. And then we'll also proceed to looking into just verifying what happens on that sliding scale as people drop off, just to make sure that we're clear on how we're describing that. And then look at how, we might not figure out until the plan, but if we can get any further on this like concept of like, what does fixed mean on cost and some of that kind of stuff.
And just to be clear on that one, I believe all the current members have all said if it's more than 7, they're out.
And I would think
Yes. Yeah.
we'd say the same.
Thank you.
Do you need anything else from us, Aaron?
No.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we do, the agenda got a little weird, where on our council agenda, it says possible closed session, and on the RDA agenda, it says there is a closed session, but from my understanding, we do not have a closed session in the RDA. We do for council, so what I'm gonna ask is that we recess council to enter into the RDA, and then once we adjourn the RDA, we'll come back into council for the closed session.
Mayor, I move that we temporarily suspend our council meeting and head into our redevelopment agency meeting.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right. Welcome, everybody. It's 8:51 PM. We'll call this redevelopment agency of Midvale City to order. Sorry, Rory, didn't check with you. You were good. As soon as you're ready, if you would call roll, please.
Yes. Board Member Glover.
Here.
Billings. Here. Sorry, Gettle.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
And Robinson.
Here.
Thank you. All right, move into public comments. Any person wishing to comment on any item not otherwise scheduled for a public hearing on the agenda may address the redevelopment agency of Midvale City at this time by stepping to the microphone and stating their name for the record. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda with just one item, consider minutes of June 18th, 2024.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Rory, if you would call roll, please.
Yes. Excuse me. Board Member Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Yes.
Glover.
Aye.
I'm losing my voice. Billings.
Yes.
And Robinson.
Aye.
Okay, passes, thank you. Our first action item, consider resolution number 2024-17 RDA approving an agreement between the redevelopment agency of Midvale City and Pines Family Holdings LLC, subordinating the deed of trust held by the redevelopment agency of Midvale City in favor of a deed of trust held by First Utah Bank to facilitate the development of Cactus and Tropicals at 7696 South Main, Midvale, Utah 84047.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, RDA Board. As you all may remember, we brought before the RDA Board a business loan for Cactus and Tropicals, who's owned by Pines Family Holding. That loan agreement was finalized on June 3rd, and the collateral was placed on a property that they own in Salt Lake City, which is their Salt Lake City location. At the time of us placing the collateral on their property, Pines Family Holding had an existing line of credit with First Utah Bank that was secured by the same property. We have since heard from Pines Family Holding and First Utah Bank that they are hoping to increase their existing line of credit by $250,000. I guess I should mention their existing line of credit was already at $250,000, so by increasing it by another 250, it would be a $500,000 line of credit. They would be using this to finance the remainder needed for the Midvale location. As of right now, the executed loan agreement with the RDA restricts any further encumbrances on the collateral property. However, the RDA is comfortable approving the increased line of credit due to their strong equity position in the collateral property. So even with this full line of credit increase, their loan to value would reach 48% with all of their loans combined. And then in order to allow this increase, the RDA will need to sign a subordination agreement saying that they can increase the existing lien that's in a position ahead of ours by another $250,000. So the fiscal impact, this agreement does not affect our original loan amount. The agency's priority for repayment in case of default would be subordinate to the increased line of credit. And like I said, that there was a recent evaluation of the collateral property which demonstrated that they had more than enough equity to pay the current debt liened on the property in addition to the increase in their line of credit. They are hoping to get that line of credit increased as soon as possible. So we are asking the RDA board that if they do approve that we suspend the rules and pass the resolution.
I have a question. We were there earlier tonight for those in the audience. And Mr. Beck mentioned that they have redone their agreement with Cactus and Tropicals to allow them to essentially leave that location if something does not get placed into the bank building. So how would that, if all of, the worst case scenario happened, and they did terminate their lease early because nothing went into the bank building, how would that impact, not just this, but, some of those other business loans, facade improvement that we've approved for them?
Yeah, so the facade improvement, I will say that's with the Becks, and so they would still be required to put in the improvements that they said that they would with the facade. I guess they would have to change the signage. We are aware of that in their lease agreement. They are still held to the same standards, so they would still have to pay the loan back. If they were to cease to exist in Midvale, actually within the Main Street area, we have that they would be in default of our loan agreement, and they therefore would have to pay back all of the funds that we've lent to them.
And doesn't the facade agreement require a tenant within like a certain period of time as well?
Yes, and
so he's got a double motivation to
yes,
make sure that bank has something.
Yes, and we have said that if any of the tenants leave, he has to secure a similar tenant within, I believe it's a 12-month period.
So between Cactus and Tropicals having an out and having, I feel like the location, I mean, obviously it's not a guarantee. I'm less worried about that than a lot of things. So hopefully it works out.
But yeah, so if they do leave that location, they'll be in default of our loan agreement and we'll have to pay all the funds back.
And then would we wouldn't be, would we then be a priority of that payback process? Because this is
well, so the way I understand it is that the lien position would really only come into play if they were ever to default on their loans, and we would have to take their collateral to pay ourselves back.
Okay.
So if they were to default on all their loans, they sold the property.
It just means we'd get paid second.
Yeah.
The first
We'd get paid after they paid off their line of credit.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments for Kate? I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we suspend the rules and pass resolution number 2024-17 RDA, approving an agreement between the Redevelopment Agency of Midvale City and Pines Family Holdings LLC, subordinating the deed of trust held by the Redevelopment Agency of Midvale City in favor of a deed of trust held by First Utah Bank to facilitate the development of Cactus and Tropicals at 7696 South Main, Midvale, Utah 84047.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Rory, if you'd call roll, please.
Yes, Board Member Brown.
Yes.
Gettle,
Yes.
Glover,
Aye.
Billings,
Yes.
and Robinson.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. Item B, consider resolution number 2024-18 RDA authorizing the chief administrative officer to execute a second amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement between the redevelopment agency of Midvale City and Salt Lake County regarding the Main Street Festival lighting project.
Yeah, so we discussed this when I brought before the board the agreement with the Mountain States Lightings. Essentially, I've been in conversation with Salt Lake County to get an extension on the TRCC grant. Without this extension, we would have to have all of the funds expended by September 31st of this year. I have worked with them to get this amendment to extend the grant to December 31st of 2024. As far as where we're at in the timeline, the design process is complete. I'm actually bringing the design build amendment before the board tonight. As soon as that's approved, and we can get that design build amendment signed, they will start the production of materials and then start scheduling the road cuts and electrical work to begin the first part of August, followed by the installation of the new street lights and the catenary lights, which will begin mid-October. And then the installation of the lights and the street lights will be done by mid-November. And then afterwards, any remaining old street lights that were taken out during the installation of the new street lights will be removed. The key terms of the amendment, we have to have the complete design and installation of the festival lights by December 31st. All of the funds will have to be expended by that date. And then we just have to make a request for reimbursement under this agreement on or before March 31st of 2025. Again, this project has had a lot of delays, and we're just trying to get it moving as quickly as possible. So we are asking that the board suspend the rules if they choose to pass this resolution.
Questions, comments for Kate? I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules and pass resolution number 2024-18 RDA, authorizing the chief administrative officer to execute a second amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement between the redevelopment agency of Midvale City and Salt Lake County regarding the Main Street Festival lighting project. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Rory, if you call roll.
Yes, Board Member Gettle,
Yes.
Glover,
Aye.
Billings,
Yes.
Robinson,
Aye.
and Brown.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. Item C, consider resolution number 2024-19 RDA authorizing the chief administrative officer to enter into a design build amendment between the redevelopment agency of Midvale City and Mountain States Lighting LLC for the design and construction of festival lighting on Midvale, Maine. Kate.
Yes, so hopefully this is the exciting item of the RDA meeting tonight. We are finally at the final stage of the design. We're here to bring it before you guys for the approval of the design as well as the approval of the cost. This is just a quick rundown of the timeline again. They're projected to have the installation of the lights by November 17th. And then, like I said, they'll go through and remove any old street lights that weren't taken out when they went in and installed the new street lights. This is the final design of the street lights. You have the Old Town version there on the left, and then what we've kind of been calling the New Town. And also on the next slide, I'll kind of show where those street lights are divided up. I do want to note that in talking to Mountain States Lightings, and they also talked to a structural engineer, the amount of weight that was needed to even just add that center light that we had discussed with the RDA board previously on the new section was going to increase the cost substantially just because of the structure of the pole, the weight of the banners, and having the light pole on the center light in the middle of the string light. They were going to have to alter the pole structure. So we did remove those. And we've added the sidewalk light over here and then the street light on that side. So this will be the design of the festival lighting as well as the placement of the street lights on the, what we are kind of calling the Old Town part of Main Street. It is kind of keeping that traditional lateral design to it that we showed the RDA board originally. And then there'll be a gap between the two designs, and then starting after Second Ave is when we'll have the string lights kind of crossing back and forth across the street, kind of giving that new design to the area that we're calling Newtown. And that'll end at Fifth Ave. And then with the plaza construction, we'll have string lights over the North Plaza and the South Plaza. So there should be adequate lighting there, but we will continue the street lights all the way down. And then Nate was gonna add some more information on how the lights are gonna be controlled.
Yeah, and just let me add one thing to the design. So Kate was out sick last week when they came in and showed these designs. I briefed her on a bunch of stuff, but I realized that I didn't brief her on everything. There are within this things that are called, they call them gobos. So what these gobos are these lights that are up on top of the poles. And so where the string lights end at 6, and then where there's the gap between the old town and the new town on what is that,
Second Ave.
there's actually gobo lights there. So even though there's a gap in the string lights, these gobo lights project down patterns onto the street. So those become actual, if an architect was here, they would call them moments, but those become little different moments that you have within the things. We like those where they are because we plan on doing the raised crosswalks at 6 right out here. And then at Second, that's where eventually we plan on doing that larger plaza, the mid-block plaza. So it makes sense for those things to stop at those points and have the gobos. In addition to that, everywhere that we can, where there's a pole and there's a mural, we are using those poles to light up the mural. Now, we can't do that on every mural because there's so many murals that we would actually have to put the lights on the owner's properties really to light up those murals. So we'll continue to work with the owners, but those wouldn't be part of this project. But like I said, everywhere that we can, that we have these poles, there'll be these sort of very focused spotlights that light up the murals. And so with that, now I'll talk about the controls. So what we're doing, when the last designers were here, we were really struggling on how to get the power to all of these poles. We were still struggling with that because the conduit in the old town is no longer functioning. It's underneath those trees, impossible to get to, impossible to pull anything through. You would have to dig up those trees to even replace it. And in the new part of the town, we were very restricted on where those current power can get to the lights from the air. So we finally decided we're just gonna go all in and go the right route on this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna trench all along both sides of the street. That'll allow us to put all the power that we need into the street, and then we will just bore under to where each one of the boxes is gonna be. So it's just boring a couple of feet to where the boxes are stationed. Now, what that allows us to do is get all the amount of power that we want to every element of these lights individually, because the lights are gonna have the gobos on them, they're gonna have the spotlights on them for the murals, they're gonna have the Cantonary hanging festival lights, and they're gonna have the regular street lights. So all of those will be connected to their own circuits, which is something we couldn't do before, but we can do now that we're doing this trenching. What that allows us to do is that we can control every one of those completely independently. We'll have them programmed as a block, but you could even control each light and each strand of light completely differently. The strands of lights will be LED multicolor, so they could basically do any color that you could ever imagine. They can do patterns, they could do all sorts of different things. The street lights, we will be able to have them full street lights. They'll come on as normal street lights, but we will also be able to dim them if we want or completely turn them off when we want. Same with the mural light spotlights. Those will be programmed to go off at a certain time. Or if we're having events where we don't want a mural like completely lit up, we can control those separately. With the gobos, the same thing, those will be controlled separately. We could also put little disc patterns in there. So during winter, you could put winter patterns. During holidays, you could put different sorts of patterns in there. Other than those patterns, which you have to do manually, everything will be controlled by an app, basically. So we can sit there with an app under the lights and we can say, okay, I want this pattern. I want to turn off all the lights, all the street lights. I want to turn on a certain pattern that goes down from one end of the street to the other. I want it to be green for St. Patrick's Day and flash or do whatever we want it to do. All of that will be independent. And that's something that we couldn't do with the current, or the old design, because getting that power to them was just so prohibitive. So this new designer, pitched us on this trenching concept. We talked with Keith about it. He likes it. I think in the end, it's actually more cost effective. And the other thing with this is, we're getting these street lights that we weren't going to have. So all of this is coming off of those poles. So really cool what they can do.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
I was done.
Do you know if the lighting fixtures that have the gobos inside them, if they'll be able to have more than one image, or more than one image, or will Glenn's team have to
Yeah, so with those, when you want to do a different pattern, then they'll have to go and put a different disc in there. It actually physically has a pattern that goes in it.
Yeah, I've probably inserted thousands of them, but some lighting fixtures will let you put more than one in.
Well, I'm not sure. They might have more than, they just said, if you wanted to change it from one of the patterns that we had in there, then you would have to physically go in. So I don't know how many patterns they plan to put in there. It might be that there's 3 different patterns.
It's a really cool idea. I just know that it could be annoying to change, so we want to be strategic with the gobo.
Well, and remember, we're just going to have gobos on just those 2 intersections. Yeah. So it's really
cool, though.
4 poles. It's really 4 poles. If we wanted to change it, it would be, Public Works would have to do some work, but it would just be on those 4 poles, not the entire street.
I like that addition.
The trenching was further in the fall, right? It wouldn't bump into any of the openings that some of these new tenants are going to be having, right?
The trenching we hope could start as soon as a couple of weeks.
Okay.
That's the first thing that needs to happen. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for Kate or Nate?
Well, I'll go over the key terms, if there's no questions on the design. So the stipulated sum of the contract is the $1,152,255, subject to authorized adjustments, but it'll be construed as a not to exceed amount. They will submit applications for payments based on a progress report, which we'll have 30 days to pay. We will keep a 5% retainage in an interest-bearing account, and then once we make the final payment, we'll pay back the 5% interest. And it's in there that design builder shall achieve substantial completion, meaning that the street lights are up and the festival lights are up by November 17th. The removal of the old lights will come after, if they're still there, and that would need to be done. So the full completion date would be December 17th, 2024. Fiscal impact, as stated before, it's not to exceed that 1.1 million and some change, subject to the authorized adjustments. The TRCC support program is contributing the $200,000 as a reimbursement grant. We have allocated within the Main Street CDA $1,089,000 to fund the rest of the project. If for some reason additional funds are needed for the streetlights, we can allocate funding from the City Streetlight Fund as necessary to fund that portion of the project. And again, we're asking the board to suspend the rules because we're hoping that we can get this going and we can actually do the road cuts sooner rather than later. So yes, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules and pass resolution number 2024-19 RDA authorizing the chief administrative officer to enter into a design build agreement between the redevelopment agency of Midvale City and Mountain States Lighting LLC for the design and construction of festival lighting on Midvale, Maine.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Rory, if you call roll, please.
Board Member Gettle?
Yes.
Glover?
Aye.
Billings? Yes. Robinson? Aye. And Brown?
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Thank you.
All right, since we don't have the closed session in the RDA, I would ask for a motion to strike that item, and then we can adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
A motion to strike and a second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to adjourn the RDA meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Great. We're adjourned, and we will re-enter into the city council meeting.
Do we need a motion for that? To enter back into the council? Or no, because we're doing a closed session.
Good, great. So we do have a closed session for strategy sessions to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to enter into a closed session. And Rory, would you call roll, please?